Meeting of House Transportation Subcommittee 3. We have, do we have a quorum?
Counting the Uber chairman, we have 5. There's 10 on the committee, so we need 6. We have 6 with the with the chairman. We have 6.
Very good.
Take the vote for the attendance.
Shall we take attendance?
Who's this?
Um,
Okay, let's see what's going on here.
Well, while we're getting queued up for that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bills to be heard, and people scattered throughout the building. So we'll do our best to work with the people that are here and help the people who are on their way or that we'll be communicating with to get them here in time to hear their bill. So I see, don't let me forget attendance. Are we getting close with that? Okay. Delegate Greenhaw, if you want to kind of queue up,
Okay, why don't we
take the hot seat here, and we could take attendance by voice. There we go. I'm here. Delegate Bloxham, are you here?
Here.
Mr. Chair, I think our iPads over here don't have the voting.
Okay to do it by voice, George?
Oh, yeah. Brock,
Here?
Bloxham,
Robert, would you say here, please?
here. Durant,
Here.
Anderson, Tata,
Here.
Watts, Herring, Subramanian,
Present.
and Austin. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Delegate Greenhaw, when you're ready, go ahead and tell us, perhaps up here, if that would work for you.
Yeah, just sit at the table.
I'll try.
Whatever you're comfortable
But
with.
no promises.
So this would be House Bill 1376, Amateur Radio Operators Amber Lights. Proceed.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, for allowing me to speak to my House Bill 1376, which simply removes the prohibition from using flashing amber lights on vehicles that are used by federally licensed amateur radio operators or ham radio operators in certain situations when the vehicles are in motion. Current law allows them to have them on if they're not moving. This will simply allow them to move with their lights on. So all across Virginia, our Virginia ham operators, they volunteer to serve in their communities. And I have experience in Virginia Beach. I can tell you exactly what they do. I went to the Wicked K 10 race. And I talked to the police about how important it was for them to have the ham radio operators there. They station themselves along the race because the boardwalk is closed, streets are closed. Ham radio operators, I happened to be standing next to the one who was stationed at the first aid. When he got the call from another ham radio operator that a runner had collapsed, the person I was standing next to went in and they called the police, called the ambulance, called rescue. It was so much faster. Had that ham radio operator not been there, they would have had to wait for somebody to call 911. So we also have a race in March. It's the Shamrock race. We will have 60 volunteer ham radio operators working with the police at this. So the reason they need their lights to flash while they're moving is because traffic is stopped. They want to be able to drive with their flashing lights if they move from one place to the other so pedestrians can see them. Pedestrians and the runners, bikers can see them for safety reasons. And so pedestrians know that they really are supposed to be there and will let them get by. So it seems like a very simple bill, but it will really help the radio operators. They volunteer. Another thing that they do is, and I've been to this too, they volunteer to prepare to be the communication system in case we have a natural disaster. So I went when they were at Red Wing Park in Virginia Beach, and they pretend there's no electricity, no communication. They have their generators. They use like fishing rods to cast their antennas up into the trees to see how far they can communicate. And they stay there for a whole weekend, and so they can be they can be the ears for the police, first responders, connecting lost family members. Because if we have a hurricane and you have family in California, they might like to know that you're okay. Right. And they do this every year for free, volunteer, and I think we should let them do their flashing lights when they're doing these races and community events so that they can help our police officers more effectively. And I have been, this is only while they're working with federal, state, or local authorities. No other time would they be allowed to do this. I did touch base with the state police, and the statement I got from them, it was very long, but the bottom line, the department does not have a position on this bill. They actually said they saw no reason these guys can't have, and women, can't have their flashing lights. And that was from First Sergeant Daniel B. Wilson, who's with the Virginia State Police Office of Legal Affairs, and there is no fiscal impact. These guys, they do this for free, they volunteer, so there's no expense to anyone. So I certainly hope y'all will pass my bill, and I don't know if we have any questions.
Well, we'll entertain questions from the committee. Good.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
Delegate Durant.
So, can you refresh me again? Who does not have a position? You were the state.
With the state police?
You don't have a state
Yeah,
position.
It was. He's First Sergeant Daniel B. Wilson. He's with the Virginia State Police, their Office of Legal Affairs.
Okay.
And he said they're not taking a position. They don't have any issues at all with this. So, and my local police, they love it. They really count on having these volunteers there.
Delegate Durant.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Tata?
question? So I know you said that they wanted this. Did they come to you and ask you to carry this bill?
Well, I was just not directly. I have a constituent who's involved who invited me to the weekend where they were training, and while I was there, this is something that came up, and so I said, well, let's see if we can get it done.
Very good.
So it's something they need, but they didn't specifically ask.
Okay, anybody in the room ready to testify?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I have a question, please.
Absolutely, yes.
Delegate Greenhalgh, is this only going to be used during active functions, or does this permit somebody who has an amateur license to drive down the highway at any time they want to broadcast or communicate with a yellow light blinking on their vehicle?
Now, this is specifically, I can tell you the way the bill is worded, it is specifically while they are working with federal, state, or local authorities. Because if we have a natural disaster, they could be working with federal and state as well, which is why that's in there. But it simply says, while providing communication services to localities for public service events authorized by the Department of Transportation where the event is being located, or participating in emergency communications or drills on behalf of federal, state, or local authorities.
So are they going to have to get a permit from the Department of Transportation, according to that, to do this? Or
well, this will give them the authority when they're working directly with the police or with state or federal. Which
line of your bill is that?
I am on, it's line 73 and 74.
Okay.
That's actually the only change we're making is that number 24.
Okay.
Delegate Austin, you satisfied with that?
I'm not 100%, but I'm comfortable.
Okay. Emma, would you care to add anything to that? Okay, it seems pretty clear. That's what I was reading as the patron described it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think I would be more comfortable if I had some testimony from law enforcement to say that we're comfortable working in conjunction on this. I think that's the only area that
Yeah, we'll have
gives me cause for concern.
We'll ask for testimony from Major Maxey if he's and whoever else is available from administration.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Max of Virginia State Police. Delegate, we do have no position. The amber lights are very common with these vehicles. I was here when this was originally passed, and it was only for stationary vehicles. Moving it to a moving vehicle, I don't think in these situations is going to create a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody in the room here to testify in favor of the bill? Or against? Well, we're rolling. How about in the queue, George?
Mr. Chairman, there's no one to speak on this bill in the virtual room.
Okay. Well, I think the
Move
question.
to report.
Thank you.
Second.
Go ahead and vote on this.
Motion passes.
Motion passes 6-0.
I just voted, but it said it's for a different member.
Yeah.
So it's not like that. The
Uh,
hearing is not here.
You're not allowed to do that, Mr. Chairman. Delegate. Thank you for confessing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Should we pause and correct that
That's correct.
vote? Okay, thank you. All right, well, who do we have else prepared? Oh, there you go. We're ready for you, Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
And you are introducing us to House Bill 1932, yielding or reducing speed, move over for certain vehicles. So whenever you're
correct.
ready, we're ready.
I appreciate that. So 1932 is an expansion of the existing move over, slow down law. And it's an interesting story. More than a decade ago, Virginia instituted this. And we're kind of middle of the pack, or maybe a little better. We're not as complete as maybe some states in how they do things, the comprehensiveness of the vehicles required and their education models, but we're a whole lot more than some of the others. Virginia's difference is that we allow you to slow down when you cannot legally move over. Some states do not do that. What this bill does is add stationary, commercial, and residential vehicles along the roads. Now keep in mind these are only on 4-lane roads of a certain speed limit, interstate roads is how I describe it. And so those would be tractor trailers with their amber flashing lights on, or their triangles, safety required triangles, or road flares out, or a car with its 4-way flashers on. I think the things that's important to think about with residential motorist is this helps protect them before the tow truck gets there. When the tow truck gets there, we're already required to move over or slow down, but prior to that, under the current law, we do not. And if you've ever been sitting alongside of Interstate 81, I'm sure your all's interstates on the other side of the state are not not a whole lot traveled, and no one ever has problems, but 81 we do. And so it's quite interesting as you're standing there and cars zooming by. So this bill, I work closely with AAA. They've identified a number of things. We kill over about 600 people a year with accidents where vehicles would be engaged in this type of behavior, with almost 15,000 injuries. So it matters to our citizens. Again, the law that we have now, if you talk to folks, and I've talked to a lot of different people. My trucking folks up home were appreciative of it. My residential folks are appreciative of it. Law enforcement either said, yeah, it's okay, or yeah, we think it'll make a difference. My emergency service folks said, you got to do something. The fire and rescue folks that are out there on the interstate every day said, you got to do something. This is a good step. And so current law is very confusing because as you don't have to move over if it's a car, but you should, right? And so they move over for everything else, and then they don't. And so you got some motorists doing it, some you don't. This would make it basically everything on the side of the road with flashing lights or the safety things would be applicable. I think that's the short and sweet explanation of the bill. Happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Well, I'll add my comment that when I used to read double little I, if changing lanes would be unreasonable or unsafe, right, proceed with due caution and maintain a safe speed for highway conditions. And so that addresses what I would envision being potentially also creating a hazard whereby, 2 lanes filled with busy traffic. So,
Yes,
but any other members of the committee have questions for the patron?
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Tata.
So you know, I'm up and down 64 like all of us. We're out on the road all the time, and the only thing that worries me about this is that it's subjective, because I've been that person that's trying to move over and I can't get over because there's too long of, you know, lanes, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to get over but I can't, and then, you know, would that subject me to a ticket?
Mr. Chair, Madam Delegate, I'm not law enforcement. You would not get a ticket from me, okay? But perhaps the Colonel, Major.
If I may ask our technical expert, Emma, to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But not to, please, Emma.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out there.
Mr. Follow-up, do you have an answer for that?
I've asked Emma to address that question, and we'll come back for more if you'd like.
Mr. Chairman, Delegate, I mean, the standard would be if making the lane change is unreasonable or unsafe. Again, that would be up to the law enforcement officer or the judge if you did get a ticket.
Thank you.
May I ask or add an addition? That is the current standard now.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's right.
So, that doesn't make a change to the existing standard. That's the standard now for moving over for police, tow trucks, anyone that this would apply to.
Yeah, anyone with those flat of commercial or safety vehicles with their lights on, you're required to do that now. And so this just adds this group of basically commercial and residential vehicles. Matches us up with about 6 or 7 other states that have already done this. And again, in my mind, it reduces confusion because you weren't sure, right? So, and I think gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is the delegate satisfied with that answer, or should we explore it further? Okay, good. Any other questions from the committee? Anyone here that's with us in person speak in favor of the bill? Yes, please introduce yourself. And
hi. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Carter Whitelow, AAA, we wholeheartedly support this bill. We were so excited to work with Delegate Running on this. I'm from 81 as well, and I know how dangerous the highways can be up there. So we're just very, very fortunate to work with him on this piece of legislation that's going to save some lives. So thank you.
thank you.
Good afternoon, Dana Schraub with the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police. We do support this legislation. We feel like it's a reasonable extension of the current move-over law, and does, in fact, kind of clarify that this applies to all kinds of situations where there may be somebody who is off the side of the road, and we need to do the best we can to give them a safe lane.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Dale Bennett with the Virginia Trucking Association. As Delegate Runyon alluded to, and our members, especially in the 81 Court, view this as being helpful. Unfortunately, we've had very tragic situations where a tractor trailer had a mechanical issue or something, had to pull over. According to federal DOT regulations, they have to put flashes on, triangles and flares out, and unfortunately some folks run into the back of them at full speed and ends up with very, very tragic, sad consequences. We think this bill will help address that and hopefully reduce those types of incidents in the future.
A quick question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hall. So I think Delegate Tata asked a question that kind of reflected a concern that I had as well, but any experience with there being questions, real life incidents where there were tickets issued and because in the judgment of a driver, it was an unsafe situation to change lanes?
No, sir.
I trust you'd have brought that up.
Not that I'm aware of. I've had none of our members with their drivers report situations to me where they had issue with something like that occurring. No,
okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Danielson, Virginia Coalition of Motorcyclists. We support this bill as well. Having been on the side of the road on a motorcycle and having cars blowing by, we were really excited to see this piece of legislation. And talking to the question about tickets, I can tell you, going up and down 64 all the time, I can't count how many times I've gone by police cars, and it hasn't been safe to move over, and I've never been looked at once.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Anybody else in the room? George, anybody online?
Mr. Chairman, there's no one to speak on this bill.
Okay. Well, again, to the committee, any final questions before we vote on this? Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion?
I'm sorry. Little Green, first committee meeting. We operate by a motion. I would move to report the bill.
Second.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. An official total for me, Robert?
Can you get a?
I'm sorry,
you can
yep.
go.
Technically challenged here. Hey, Rob, you got the magic touch there?
There we go.
Votes yes. 6-0 yes. The bill passes. Delegate Runyon, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. I do appreciate it.
And any other patrons in the room here?
That was here.
Okay, yeah.
HB 1535.
I'm not, oh, there we go. Sorry, Delegate Jenkins. Yeah,
Th-
when you're
Thank
ready.
you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. HB 1535, currently the code on highways of speeds of 55, interstates of speeds of 55 miles per hour, with two lanes, more than 2 lanes, restricts commercial vehicles to the 2 right lanes. Basically, what this bill does is seeks to include interstates with 3 lanes to 50 with speeds of 55 miles per hour, which to include them in it as well. It does not currently it does not apply to interstates with speeds of 55 miles per hour, and what this simply does, wish to include those as well. And basically, it makes the interstate safer, keeps traffic flowing in the event there is an accident. And that's all it does.
Very good. Well, thanks for the presentation. Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Bloxham.
So I guess I'm going to question your premise that it's going to make the highway safer. Is there any? Do you have any report, or was this brought to you by somebody to say that that's true? And the only reason I question that is 55 miles per hour would typically be probably where it's in a metropolitan area. Most highways that have 3 lanes that are 65 are probably more rural, so you probably have less merging going on. So I was just kind of curious if there was some data supporting your statement.
I do not have any data to support that statement, but there is less merging. And a lot of times that's where we have problems with the merging, moving back and forth.
Right. And so your bill would make it so they could not move to the left, the farthest left lane if there were 3 lanes when it's 55 miles an hour.
That's correct. Currently
Right.
as the
So it actually would restrict the truck from getting out of the way of merging traffic, or am I reading that wrong?
Well, currently, I wouldn't say it restricts them, but they can move to the center lane.
Right.
They can move to the center lane. Yes.
But not the left lane. Okay, all right. I understand what you're trying to do. I don't know if it gets. I might disagree with you on what the results will be, but we'll listen to some testimony.
Any other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
I have a tendency to agree with Delegate Bloxham. I think the intent is good, but I'm not so sure that it's not going to slow down and impede and prohibit people from merging onto the interstate if you limit the trucks the ability around cities where you have a high concentration of traffic to utilize the 3rd lane. I mean, if you've got trucks in the right lane and the center lane and you can't merge, how do people get on the interstate, Delegate Jenkins? I think I have a little issue with that.
Well, there are 2 lanes, and commercial vehicles can merge to that center lane.
Correct, provided it's available.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my concern. If that where we're traveling around the city and the speed limit is 55 or less, and you have a high concentration of traffic, center lane has to be available for a truck to merge into it. And I'm not so certain that we're not restricting ourselves here to the point that we're limiting access to the highway. That's my concern, Mr. Jenkins. Delegate Jenkins. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Delegate Austin. I likewise have some questions, we'll say. And so I'll ask Major Max to, I'll pose the question. Major Max in the room still? Thank you. Has there been any occurrence whereby you feel that this is necessary? So I'm not asking you to vote on the bill, but is this a problem that, as far as you know, that trucks?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. What was asked earlier was, would these vehicles be prevented from moving over? And they would. They would not be able to utilize that lane. So it does pose the potential to prevent vehicles from being able to slowly merge into traffic, because these vehicles would be prohibited from moving over to 55. So the department has no position, but the points that were made are concerns that would be legitimate.
Yeah. So I just posed the question a little differently to the patron. Are you aware of situations where safety was compromised by vehicles operating as they're allowed to now on the highways?
Well, I would say that the same principle applies on highways where the speed is 65 miles per hour. It's the same law, the same principle. It's just being reduced to 55 miles per hour. And if it's 65 miles per hour and they can't get over, it's the same principle. Yep. But what it does is, in the event there is an accident or something on the highway, it keeps that far left lane open so traffic can continue to flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody in the room here to testify in favor of the bill? Hearing none. Anybody against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Dale Bennett, Virginia Trucking Association. Delegate Jenkins did reach out and discuss this issue with me, and we expressed our concerns, and I think the questions hit on the exact problem we've got. First of all, understand that the men and women that drive trucks are professionals. They have special licenses. They're subject to drug and alcohol testing, that sort of thing. What this legislation is going to do is remove their ability to drive defensively. When I say drive defensively, that means being able to move over to let merging traffic come onto the interstate like they can. What this bill will do will essentially create a wall of trucks in the middle lane in urban areas that will make it very difficult for people to move across. And a perfect example of this, and it dawned on me and I saw it for real the other day, if you go out 7th Street, like you're going to go on 95 North, and you take that around, when you come around that merge ramp, you look up and that merge lane ends, and it's a bridge abutment right there. And if you've got a wall of trucks in those two lanes, it's a no-win situation for both drivers involved. So we respectfully oppose the bill. We think it will create more problems than it seeks to solve. Thank you.
Thank you. Does VDOT have a position or care to add to the comments?
Virtually every mile of interstate in the Commonwealth, with the exception of about a quarter of a mile. The issue with these, the 55 mile an hour speed limit, are in urban areas. And what we are noting is that generally in those areas we're looking at 80,000 vehicles per day on I-64, 75,000 vehicles per day on I-95, 100,000 vehicles per day on 64. Bottom line, as you increase the number of vehicles in an area, the lanes become more compacted and congested, and at the same time, we have there's generally a higher concentration of on-ramps, off-ramps, maneuvers, engine maneuvers that are not caused by the trucks per se. It's because of people coming on and off the interstate. So those are the issues. These are areas that are leading to higher traffic counts and more events as far as.
Thank you. And I doubt there's anyone in the room that doesn't know what your name and your title is, but perhaps. Thanks very much. Is there anyone online, George?
Mr. Chairman, there was one person to speak against the bill.
Okay, this would be a good time to connect us with
All
them,
right.
please.
Mr. Ron Jenkins from the Virginia Loggers Association.
When you're ready, Mr. Jenkins, unmute, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Ron Jenkins. I represent the Virginia Loggers Association. We are a trade association representing with membership of around 350 businesses, most of which have commercial fleets. They're used primarily engaged in the business of forest harvesting and hauling from forest mills from forest lands to mills. For the reasons that expressed by many of the legislators, as well as Dale Bennett, we do not find this bill to be the best bill to go forward right now. We did speak with Delegate Jenkins, and we understand his concern, but we think it would, as someone summed up earlier, it would probably create more problems than it may solve. And for all the reasons that have been stated, I would just ask that you oppose this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. And that concludes our queue online, George.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Will we operate by a motion? In fact, sorry, I'll back up and just ask the patron, do you have any final comments?
Yes, if merging is the issue, I'm open to a friendly amendment, whereas we can amend it to allow for space or for a certain distance for merging, for vehicles to get over, commercial vehicles to get over, and then after that point, get back over those 2 lanes.
I'd be very happy to look that amendment over, perhaps in a future hearing. I don't know that we'll be getting to that this session, but thank you for taking this on, and look forward to seeing that when you have it ready for us. At this point, we'll vote on the bill that's before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If there's a motion,
I move to lay the bill on the table.
we'll go ahead and vote on this now. So the motion is to lay it on the table gently. And LaRock is trying to vote on that. I think my fingers are a bit too calloused or something, but
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the
members
total
of the
is
committee.
6-1. Thank you. And yeah, Delegate Rip Sullivan is in the room, and your bill is just one bill, I assume, Delegate Sullivan?
1587, yes, Mr. Chairman.
We're ready for that when you are.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, committee members are well aware of that. The right-of-way on a state-maintained road includes the road, either side, and of course the median. The median has to be kept clear for safety purposes and allow road crews room to work and things like that. So signs and advertisements are prohibited within the limits of highways. And illegal signs, unfortunately, have been an issue all around the Commonwealth for many, many years. They create both dangerous hazards as well as they're not particularly attractive. So VDOT, years ago, I think, was authorized to remove any sign that's in violation of state code, and it can levy a $100 fine. The code also authorizes VDOT to work with localities to be the enforcers of the law. And there is a specific statute, which you have before you, which authorizes the commissioner to enter an agreement with Fairfax County for the purpose of maintaining the medians on these. I think there are 99 roads, if memory serves, that this applies to. So what it does, the current statute allows the county to authorize law enforcement agencies, local government entities, employees, and volunteers to go out and collect all these illegal signs. It has a specific carve-out. If you've got an event over the weekend, you could put a sign out and sort of specific carve-out for the weekend where you can put signs and you're not going to be violating the law. Fairfax has had a long-standing practice of using what is called the community labor force, which is a euphemism for a group of low, well-screened offenders in the county system to go out on work release and allow those labor crews to clear the medians. Unfortunately, just a few months ago, the sheriff's office told the county that this labor force would no longer have the capacity to do this work. So Fairfax now is in a bit of a bind. What 1587 does simply is adds contractors to the list of those who are able to act on behalf of the county. All the same rules would be in effect. Contractors would have the same responsibilities. And so Fairfax could then hire a contractor to remove signs, illegal signs, from the medians. So it lets Fairfax County address this issue in the most efficient and cost-effective way, thereby improving the safety and appearance of Fairfax County's roads. It just gives them another option to do this.
Thank you, Delegate. I don't see any questions in the queue from the committee.
We do have one witness, I think, Your Honor.
Okay. In favor?
Mr. Chairman, Noel Dominguez, representing Fairfax County. We want to thank the patron for introducing the bill for us. I think he explained it extremely well. This is just another tool in the toolbox to be able to remove these already illegal signs from our roadways and make our roads continue to make them safe.
Okay.
And I'm here if anyone has any questions. Thank you very much.
Any other testimony for or against? Quick question for the patron. Would this be done in a bipartisan manner when these signs are cleared?
I am certain.
Okay.
I'm certain. I've never put one of my signs in a median illegally, but I've seen some of them.
Okay, you are under oath right now.
I've seen some of them, and
well, I don't want to get too playful.
Fairfax is
here.
pretty effective in getting rid of them.
Okay.
No fist, by the way. This would be on Fairfax County's time.
Yeah.
Move to report.
If I may ask Joanne to guide us. It does seem to. It is actually allowing a contractor to act as an agent of the Commissioner of Highways for the purpose of, and then a series of provisions. And that sounds like pretty serious language. I just wanted to make sure that is appropriate given the activity to be taking place by a non-government employee.
Mr. Chair, Joanne Nyquist from VDOT. Currently, the way the law reads, it's basically saying Fairfax County acts as an agent, and then goes on to identify those perform the functions associated with sign removal. We don't have an issue with this bill. We don't have a position. We don't have an issue. But we would note that VDOT uses contractors for various functions in the right-of-way as well. Mowing, and oftentimes these contractors end up having to move signs, et cetera. So I don't think you'd see any difference between a VDOT contractor moving a sign and perhaps the counties.
Thank you very much. Delegate Bloxham.
I'll move to report.
Second.
So we'll go ahead and vote on this bill now.
There we go. I heard that.
Has everybody voted?
See these big ears, they work.
I've been voting for your bill all day.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Delegate Anderson asked us to wait until he got here so he could vote for your bill. Just kidding. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Bill
Chairman,
passes
members of the committee.
7-0. Thank you. And do we need to go at ease and start looking for patrons here? Let's just take a minute and go at ease.
Delegate Bulova is on his way.
Very good. Thanks for tracking him. willingness of the committee to go ahead and hear the bill in the absence of the patron, as it was explained to me in an earlier meeting with our council. This is a sort of a technical adjustment to the code, so we'll go ahead and hear the House Bill 1587. Have I got the right bill in front of me here?
You want Adam's bill?
I'm sorry, 2014. So I'm going to ask you, Emma, to just basically give us a explanation of what this seeks to accomplish. And again, if we're comfortable going forward with it, we may save Ms. Delegate Adams the trip over here.
Mr. Chairman, this bill does not change the existing provisions of the texting and driving code section. It reorganizes them so that there's a different subsection for the first offense and the second and subsequent offense. And I hesitate to say anything on behalf of the patron, but my understanding is that this would help OES to delineate between a first offense or second or subsequent in their reporting of offenses.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room to speak in favor of the bill? Or against? Online?
I can
Sure.
speak to it.
I'm sorry, committee, speak to the bill. Go ahead. Questions?
I've read it, and can you hear me? It just seems like it's a clarifying bill, right? I mean, it doesn't change the penalties, it doesn't change the intent. It's just cleaning it up so the judges understand the order of penalty for first and second offenses, right? That's how I read it too. It's nothing. That's it.
Thank you.
Let's move to report unless somebody has anything else to say that.
There's a move to report by Delegate Bloxham. We'll go ahead and vote on Delegate Adams' bill before he gets here and spoils things.
Nobody tell them.
Okay. I was just, tell them it was like 4-3 or something. Okay. The bill passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very welcome. And Delegate Bulova. We didn't keep you waiting too long, did we?
Not at all. Where do you want me to?
If you're comfortable here,
Yeah.
I think the microphone's on. And House Bill 2102, Vehicle Exhaust Systems Equipment. And when you're ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and members of the subcommittee. As you said, this is House Bill 2102. Quite honestly, I struggled a little bit with how to go ahead and present this bill. I know it deals with an issue that you all know very, very well, which is that of purposefully loud mufflers. And I know you all have debated this issue in past years. And so these are not people who have rusted mufflers or have a hole in their muffler and they can't afford to go ahead and repair it. These are people who will spend thousands of dollars in order to go ahead and make their mufflers purposefully loud. They are mufflers that startle fellow motorists, right? I don't know that any of us has probably not been on a road and had one of these things come roaring up beside you. Does the same thing for pedestrians, and wakes people up in the middle of the night. I think one of the first emails that I received on this issue, maybe about 3 years ago, was an email written at 2 o'clock in the morning from a person who lived near Route 50. Where the noise was so loud that it actually woke up their infant at 2 o'clock, and they're wondering what the heck we could go ahead and do about this. The reason I struggled with this is because it's had a real impact on my community and my family. And so I lived about 2 blocks away from a moderately busy road. If you're familiar with Northern Virginia, it's Ox Road 123, just south of the city of Fairfax. And, we've always been used to there being traffic and to kind of that whoosh of cars going back and forth. And that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother most people. But over the last 3 years or so, that proliferation of loud, jarring noise has made outdoor life for myself and for a lot of our neighbors uncomfortable and quite frankly unbearable. And if you think about it, it's really kind of taken a mental toll on our community. Now, over the summer, I went ahead and moved about 4 miles down the road, and we're about a half a mile from a major road. I guess what was striking to me was, even though we have about a half a mile of trees between us and a road, is that those loud mufflers, that screech, it cuts right through it. And you can still go ahead and hear it in our backyard. I imagine you and your constituents have faced the same issues out in Loudoun County. I literally have an inbox full of constituent complaints about these things. And I do feel very bad for people who live closer to major roads, who have to go ahead and live with these things. And these are often your more economically distressed communities. And I feel bad for people who live in downtowns like Richmond, where you hear these cars, racing back and forth, and the noise just echoes off of the different buildings. And so last year, I know going through this committee, we went ahead and gave our police the ability again to go ahead and pull over these purposely loud vehicles. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for that authority. But here's the problem, is that we have a police shortage. I know we're struggling with that in Fairfax County, and that's a statewide issue. And at the same time, the police that we do have, they're pulled in a million directions. And I went on a police ride along summer of 2021, and it was incredible to me, all the different kind of things that they had to go ahead and do, from drunk drivers to mental health issues. And so we kind of have the perfect storm. The owners of these vehicles know that their chances of getting pulled over are relatively slim. The fine is relatively low, and so we continue to see the problem grow. And so that's why I'm asking for your help with this bill. And so the bill does two basic things. The first one is just to update our code to reflect that, in addition to those good old-fashioned ways of making a muffler noisier, so gutted mufflers and cutouts, modern technology can be used to create, replicate, or even amplify those noises. And so this part just brings our code, quite frankly, into the 21st century, that as technology evolves, as people get more creative, they're going to find new and different ways of making our mufflers louder. And so that's what that does. The second part, though, and the bigger aspect, is to prohibit issuance of a safety inspection for a motor vehicle that violates our laws requiring an adequate muffler. And I guess to me it doesn't make any sense that you've got a car at a state inspection up on a rack. It violates state law, so it's not street worthy, right? It's illegal to go ahead and drive on the street with a motor vehicle or a muffler like this, but to go ahead and say that's okay and send it on its way. And so I guess my ask is for my Republican friends, if we're serious about enforcing the law, here is a really great way to go ahead and do that. For my Democratic friends, if we want to actually reduce interactions between our law enforcement and the driving public, again, here's a really great way to go ahead and do that. And for my police friends who are rightly overwhelmed, this is a way to go ahead and make their lives a little bit easier, and it's one less thing that they have to go ahead and deal with on the roads when they're dealing with so many other things. I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of concerns that I heard so I could go ahead and quickly address them. The first is it will take more time, but I would go ahead and point out that if you look at Virginia State Inspection Checklist item number 14, it already provides for the inspection of your exhaust system, so it includes manifolds, gaskets, pipes, mufflers, connections. And so indeed, if you've got a leak or a hole in your muffler, that would be a reason to go ahead and reject that vehicle. But if you don't have a muffler, or if it's got a cutout, you're off the hook. The second concern was, well, this will be arbitrary. But again, I would point out that the person who conducts the inspection has to be a mechanic. They have to go through the training to go ahead and do this. And so this is probably the most possible objective way that you could go ahead and enforce this statute, is to have an actual mechanic looking under. And then the final one is that this is not a safety issue, but an enforcement issue. And I guess in this case, I would respectfully disagree. And I really think that they both go hand in hand. There's a reason why we have muffler laws, and that's certainly about public safety. And so, again, it's about the safety of our fellow drivers. It's the safety of our pedestrians. And quite honestly, it's about the safety of our communities that are impacted by loud noises. And in fact, there was a AARP magazine that cited stress caused by loud noise, and that causes mental anxiety, raises blood pressure, and increases the risk of stroke and heart attack. And so, Mr. Chair, I come from a suburban area. I know that noise is often unavoidable. Noises from loud mufflers are not unavoidable. It's just a matter of enforcing the law. And I think that we have a fair and easy way to go ahead and do that with an existing state inspection system. And so, Mr. Chair, that is the bill. I truly appreciate your consideration.
Yeah.
Happy to take any questions. I think there are a couple of folks who wanted to testify on behalf of it.
I think we're ready to hear questions from the committee if there are any. We'll accept testimony from the room. Those in favor of the bill would speak first. Okay.
I think I had them on. People signed up online.
Okay. Anybody in the room to speak against?
Mr. Chairman, Matt Daniels, Virginia Coalition of Motorcyclists. While we don't disagree with the spirit of what this bill tries to do, we do disagree with the method for several reasons. For years, Virginia had a very workable exhaust statute. Exhausts and mufflers had to be stock or comparable to stock. That is still the code. That's still the wording of the code. However, several years ago, for various reasons, tickets stopped getting written. I know that because I used to defend these tickets quite often in court. And all of a sudden, we weren't writing them anymore. And then all of a sudden, we started having a problem with loud exhaust. We believe there are better methods to do this. We particularly object to using the state inspectors as the enforcement arm for several reasons. One, under the inspection manual now, yes, the inspector can go and look at things, but these are objective measures to look at. What we're doing now is, what this bill would do is ask the inspector to start making decisions subjectively. When I'm riding down the road with a muffler that is not legal, and my friend Major Maxey pulls me over and gives me a ticket, there are due process measures in place. I can disagree with the major, and I can go to court, and I can put on evidence that my exhaust doesn't violate the law, and there is a judge to make that determination. There is no due process when an inspector does that. I can't do anything. The inspector has the sole decision of whether he's going to reject me or not, and I have to live with it. So for that reason, and because we just believe that we have laws on the books that if we let our law enforcement enforce them, work. They have worked in the past, and so we oppose this bill.
Thank you. Did you say there's someone queued up from online?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chairman, there are 3 people in the virtual room to speak in favor of the bill.
2102. So, Brian Mulch. Brian, are you with us? Time to unmute.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me a minute to speak. I live about 3/4 of a mile from Route 264 and a 1/4 mile from the closest secondary road. We can hear the exhausts in our house over top of our television inside our house. This is 24/7. We bought this house 20 years ago. It was quiet, bought it with my VA loan. I'm a veteran. We can't sit on our porch anymore. No more open windows. I bought a decibel meter, went out to the secondary road. The average car was about 70 decibels. These modified exhausts, I was reading as high as 95 decibels. 25 decibel jump is not 25%. That is 500 times louder than the other. The decibels are not linear. 500 times louder. I'm a special education teacher. I can tell you what this does to the students on the autism spectrum. I'm a motorcyclist. I've been to all 48 of the lower states, ridden to Alaska twice. I was an MSF instructor. There is no reason for a loud pipe on a motorcycle. If they want to tell you it's a safety issue, they're full of crap, okay? This causes mental health issues, physical health issues, changes the value of my house. I'm about ready to leave as soon as I can retire if this doesn't change.
Okay, Brian.
These people, they're purposely causing harm to these neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Brian. And Ted Arnn. Ted, are you with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the General Assembly Transportation Subcommittee. I am retired Lieutenant Colonel Ted Arnn, former Deputy Chief of Police of Fairfax County and a Virginia resident. I urge the subcommittee to send House Bill 2102 for consideration of the full General Assembly. Loud exhaust systems have proliferated across the Commonwealth, particularly during the last 3 years. The problem is getting worse and not better and requires additional action to get it under control. The noise pollution generated by these cars, trucks, and motorcycles is incredibly invasive into citizens' homes. I live 2.5 blocks from the intersection of 2 major arteries in Fairfax County, and yet the sound of normal traffic, including commercial vehicles, cannot be heard inside my home and is a low hum outside. Vehicles with altered exhaust systems, however, are easily and constantly heard within my home and are so loud outside they drown out normal conversation and far exceed the noise of emergency vehicles. Pedestrians are exposed to far worse, and I have personally observed small children out for a walk with a parent scream and cry in terror when one of these vehicles with loud exhaust systems passes right by them. Opponents of HB 2102 will tell you that the vehicle inspection process is for safety only and that loud exhaust systems are not a safety issue. I will tell you this is simply not true. Medical research has shown that repeated exposure to loud and/or alarming noise can cause stress, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, and heart disease. And please don't take my word for it. Simply Google the numerous research articles published by the CDC, AARP, Healthline, and Harvard University. This is a safety issue, and what easier way to eliminate loud exhaust than by simply rejecting these vehicles during the inspection process? Every single vehicle comes before a state-certified inspector once a year. Opponents will also say this would be too much work for the inspection stations. To the contrary, the full exhaust system is already inspected today, just not for noise.
Thank you, Mr. Arnn. Mr. Arnn, I hate to interrupt you, but I think we've allotted you a reasonable amount of time. If you can wrap up in a few seconds, please do.
Yes, sir, please. Thank you for the time, and all of this noise is simply unnecessary. This is installed only to possibly feed the ego of the vehicle owner, and yet a single vehicle can send loud noise pollution into hundreds of homes on a single short drive. The residents of Virginia need your action on this item this year. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Mr. James Walkinshaw in the queue.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members of the subcommittee. My name is James Walkinshaw. I'm a member of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. I represent the Braddock District, which includes the 2 neighborhoods that Delegate Bulova described, and a lot of neighborhoods that have been hit very hard by the loud exhaust epidemic in Northern Virginia especially. And I just want to describe a conversation that I had with a Fairfax County police officer today who has been on the streets attempting to enforce the existing laws around loud exhaust. And he described to me the challenge of hearing a car that has that loud exhaust, stopping them, but then having to figure out how to make the determination as to whether that loud exhaust is an aftermarket or modified loud exhaust, as opposed to some vehicles that come stock with a loud exhaust that are perfectly legal. Sometimes the driver admits that the loud exhaust is aftermarket or modified, but often they don't. And in that case, our police officers are forced to make the very difficult and unsafe decision to crawl underneath the car and try to examine the exhaust themselves, something they're not trained to do and something, quite frankly, we don't want them to do. So I would respectfully say to the gentleman who is concerned about folks at service stations making subjective decisions, right now, we have police officers underneath cars on the side of the roadway making subjective decisions. And it is very frustrating for those officers and for members of our community to know that that very same car could have been up on a lift the day before with a qualified mechanic looking at it in a safe, controlled environment. So we're hopeful that you'll report out this bill. Fairfax County supports it. Fairfax County Police Department and police officers support it. We appreciate Delegate Bulova patroning the bill this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Delegate Bloxham has a question.
Yes, State Police.
Major Max.
So Major Maxey, I guess my question is to you on the sound. The only way to tell is with a decibel meter. Would that be correct?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police, Delegate Bloxham. State Police has no position on this, but I can point out that as originally manufactured, when they're talking about the sound, it would create extensive work for the inspectors because they would have to look for the make, the model, the year of the vehicle. They would have to somehow look that up on every vehicle to determine what the original manufactured sound was. Then they would have to purchase some sort of device to measure it against that. The bill in 46.2.1049 exhaust system in good working order states that unless it is equipped with an exhaust system in good working order and in constant operation to prevent excessive and unusual levels of noise. That's a training issue for law enforcement to be able to articulate that in their courts. You can articulate excessive and unusual. A standard of as originally manufactured is going to set a limit that we're going to have to take to court to actually say what that limit was at the time it was manufactured, and that's going to be very, very difficult to do.
Thank you. I have to speak to the bill at the appropriate time.
If Chairman, Major Max could stay with us for a second.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Absolutely, yeah.
Major Maxey, how are our state inspection stations going to know what is a permissible altered exhaust system and what is not? I mean, you all regulate our state inspection stations. So if I am a regulated registered state inspection station, then that put me in a very compromising position to challenge an individual to say, you know, that whether it's loud or not. I mean, what position would you all take with that? If someone at a state inspection station denied a sticker, which the last sentence, 46.247.1047 says the state inspection station cannot permit a sticker on a vehicle with an altered exhaust. I just think that's very compromising. I think you all, state police, should direct to our state inspection stations what is permissible and what is not. It shouldn't be subject to their determination.
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Austin, currently the state inspection sticker is not necessarily saying that that vehicle is safe. It is saying at the time that that vehicle was inspected, all the items on the checklist contain no critical safety defects. The exhaust systems that are mentioned here, many of them, and I agree, they are loud, they're obnoxious, I fully agree with that. The majority of those actually increase the performance of the car, so they're actually making that vehicle perform better. Now, I agree the noise is there, but to say it contains a safety defect when technically, more than likely, you could probably bring in something from the manufacturer that shows that it's actually improving the performance of that vehicle would be outside of the scope of the inspection program. That inspection program is to make sure that there are no critical safety defects that are going to harm either operators operating around that vehicle or the drivers of the car.
We have a couple other delegates in queue, but Delegate Bloxham, if you have a question for
No.
Okay. No. Yeah, Delegate Anderson.
For the major, how much would it cost, if I own a repair station, how much would it cost, estimate, for me to comply? If this became law, how much per station?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Anderson, I've seen some of these devices as low as just over $100, some of them pushing $1,000. But it's also going to be a time because, again, you're going to have to look up what the original manufacturer vehicles do not contain that information in the user book, on the VIN plate of the vehicle. They would have to research every vehicle. So for the customer, it's going to take longer to have their vehicle inspected. And for the personnel at the station, it's going to cost the owner of that station more because that person's going to take longer. So.
And they get $16 for the inspection, right?
20.
So it's $20 for the inspection. It's going to take more time. They're going to have to buy more equipment. And then to the other person's question, the lawyer's question, does the state police ever intervene if an inspector says there's a problem with your vehicle and you dispute that? Is there a process with the state police to resolve that?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Anderson, yes, sir, there is.
Yeah.
From the citizen or from the station, they can contact.
And so that's going to take more resources for the police to have to respond to these situations that Chairman Austin brought up, when there might be a dispute about how loud the exhaust is. right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Delegate Subramaniam, are you satisfied, or do you have a question?
My question was answered.
Thank you.
Speaking to
Any other testimony here in the room? I think we've covered the room and virtual. I do have comments. Perhaps I'll phrase them in the form of a question. Concerns, but they've to some degree been covered. Unlawful, louder than the manufacturer. I think we've worked that through pretty much. Unlawful to amplify. So if a very quiet vehicle, let's say, wanted to amplify it, we haven't actually set a decibel level that is acceptable. We've just said that you adhere to the manufacturer's decibel level. Am I correct in that?
So, Mr. Chair, I think you're kind of hitting on the next great issue we're going to have to deal with, because people with electric vehicles, they're quiet. I like that. But there are actually products out there and people who promote, if you don't want a quiet vehicle, you can actually have systems installed to go ahead and make it sound, like a, classic muscle car from the 1960s or 70s. So it's on the horizon. So
Sure.
even if we're moving to electric vehicles,
Or perhaps to create just enough noise so that pedestrians could hear the vehicle. I've found a electric car to be almost invisible if you've trained your ear to listen. I know that's not necessarily a good habit, but I do it anyway. We also make there is a statement which I'm not accustomed to seeing in the bill. Chambered pipes are not an effective muffling device. I have no reason to think that's not true, but typically we don't make a statement in a bill and then ask the people voting on the bill then to, I guess, concur by voting in favor of the bill.
right. And Mr. Chair, if I could, that is actually existing code. They just went ahead and took it from one section where it kind of floated out there alone and put it into the other section. So that actually isn't breaking any new policy ground. It's just putting it in with.
Okay. Well, it's highlighted on my screen, and I don't know that I care for it either way, but I understand you didn't initiate it. And just to be clear, for the patron or council, this is a statewide law that we're contemplating here. So one concern I would just state is that this would affect potentially hundreds of thousands of vehicles that are on the road now that maybe had slight or major alterations to the vehicles, and the next time they came in for an inspection, that's probably when they would learn that we'd passed the law whenever this took effect, if we did pass it, and that's a big thing. And sometimes we do big things. Sometimes I think we want to contemplate the entire scope of something that's really big before we. So I just kind of want to point that out to the committee that this is a big decision affecting potentially many vehicles on the road. And with that said, I'll go back to Delegate Anderson, who did use the cue.
Delegate Bulova, I think the heartburn I have, so I don't like these mufflers at all. Okay, I have a heartburn of making the repair centers the gatekeeper, and so I'm voting no for that reason. Unless you want to take it out, line 26 and line 51. If you want to take that out, I'm with you. I don't think we should sell these enhanced devices, and I'm fine with that. I just don't want to put more burden on the workstations and the state police to have to become intermediaries about that. That's just where I am. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm a no as it is.
We'll give the patron the last word and entertain a motion.
Sure. If I may. Captain Maxey, come back, please.
Anything you want to add?
Captain Maxey, and I would say to the delegate, I also agree 100%. This is very much a problem. My concerns are also with the state inspection stations, putting them in a compromising position. But with the legislation that we have passed last year, Captain Maxey, is it not enforceable today? These issues, are they not enforceable?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Ron Max, Virginia State Police. Delegate Austin, yes, sir. They are, and I'll point out, and to Delegate Anderson's point, personally, again, State Police has no position. Personally, I'll agree. Very obnoxious. It is a training issue for law enforcement in an area. It is an issue for prosecutors in a certain jurisdiction if they're willing to prosecute these violations. But if the intent here is to allow law enforcement the ability to enforce, which last year we went back to doing, that's enforcing excessive or unusual. We can articulate that. If the language stays in now to where it says as originally manufactured, pushing aside the inspection stations, a law enforcement officer on the side of the road is going to have no ability to do that. And this would also capture vehicles if you needed to buy an aftermarket exhaust for your Honda Accord and you went to a dealership and they're like, we can't get that, but we can get a comparable one, or at a body shop that doesn't use original manufacturer. It may change that decibel limit 1. It may increase it by 1 decibel. Technically, you would be in violation. It's not a loud, obnoxious one that we're trying to capture here, but it could catch people if an officer stopped you and did have a device that could measure and said, you should be at 82 decibels, you're at 84, and I'm going to issue a summons because you're in violation. It's higher than original manufacturer. Just to point that out, a challenge that language could have for law enforcement.
There's a problem. You and I have discussed this previously, but I think, in my opinion, it's an enforcement issue with state police and local police, city police officers, and I don't know that everyone wants to enforce it. And I think that's where the pressure needs to be applied. I'm just concerned with putting our state inspection offices, which we have problems now getting people to inspect vehicles for the amount that we compensate them, and it's supposed to take 1 hour to do a state inspection on a vehicle by statute, and we're putting them in a very, very awkward position here. So I don't, I would love to support your bill, but I think we have a mechanism in place to enforce it.
We have a question from Delegate Bloxham.
No, just a comment, Mr. Chairman, and a motion. I'm going to move to lay the bill on the table, being the only certified inspector in the General Assembly, and I really don't want this responsibility to cause fights in my shop when I tell somebody this muffler's too loud. I am a safety inspector. I'm not in law enforcement. That was a quote from the state police, not my quote to me. So I move on my motion.
If I may, Delegate Bull, I think there is almost unanimous agreement with the intent and compelling testimony from those online. And I would like to solve the problem, but I think the concerns that have been raised hopefully be the basis for perhaps some adjustment to the bill. And I'd be glad to put my full support out if these concerns are addressed adequately. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you,
Mr. Mitchell. Final word, if you
just if I could, and I appreciate robust debate. I know this. I walked in here understanding that this would be. A lot of people would agree that there's a problem. It's a more difficult problem to go ahead and solve. I do think that at least under our current statute, it's going to be impossible to ticket our way out of this problem. Again, our police just have so much on their plates, and the fine is so low. I don't see how we're going to go ahead and do that. And that's why, in my mind, when you have a professional, right, and so you've got a professional mechanic who's going to look under these cars, that seems to me like the least arbitrary possible way that you're going to be able to go ahead and make those judgments. I guess with that, I'll take you up on your one thing. If we do pass the bill, I wouldn't mind amending it in order to be able to get somebody a warning the first time they go through the inspection station. But assuming that is not going to happen, I guess all that I'd ask is that we continue to go ahead and look at how we could go ahead and make a dent in this issue, because it really is affecting the quality of lives of those people who are our constituents across Virginia.
I think clearly there's an appetite for the latter. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to gently lay the bill on the table. Second.
Motion's been properly seconded. We'll go ahead and vote on that motion to lay it on the table. The vote is 5-1 if everybody's voted, and so laid on the table.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate your time.
And somebody help me with another delegate in the room here. you need to present? You don't
Souped up golf carts.
Yeah, Hoffman.
We did this last year.
We did, different town though.
Delegate, for the record, say your name out loud so that I can pronounce it with confidence.
Okay, it's Waxman.
Oh, my,
Like
glad I asked.
Waxman.
Very good.
We'll
Thank
make
you,
it
Delegate
easy.
Waxman. House Bill 1457.
Yes, sir. House Bill 467. Nice to be here, Mr. Chair, committee members, as well as committee staff. I'm here today again with another golf cart bill. It's House Bill 1457. The addition here is to add the town of Stony Creek to those that are exempted by the General Assembly, to allow them to have golf carts within town limits without having a town police force. Stony Creek's a very small town. It's approximately 160 people. It has basically two roads that parallel each other. They actually adopted their town golf cart ordinance, I want to say in 2018. It was ordinance number 2. They don't do a lot of ordinances. What's that?
Will Councilor refrain from commenting until the proper time?
I do have a copy of ordinance 2, and I believe I sent it to the chair a few days ago. I've got a couple of letters from the town mayor in support of this. He also has a letter that talks about that they did pass the ordinance in May 8th of 2018. It wasn't until about 6 months ago that they were informed that they did need this exemption. At that point in time, they notified the 4 people that had golf cart permits in the town, told them that they could not move forward with those until hopefully we can get things rectified in the General Assembly.
Very good. Questions from other members of the committee?
Move to report.
We're going to ask the people in the room if they might want to testify for or against, and it is a safety issue, so I would love to hear from Joanne, just in case. I mean, it is accepted practice, but any thoughts on this, Joanne?
Mr. Chair, Joanne Maxwell, this is just something that's exceptions with a modality that's not.
Mr. Chair, could you have her put a mic on?
Microphone, the mic.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, Joanne Maxwell from VDOT. This just simply adds the town of Stony Creek to those towns that don't have their own police force to allow golf carts. VDOT will continue to work with towns in helping them designate roads and their criteria and standards. It's not like they are running on 55-mile-an-hour roads, et cetera. So there's still criteria. So as far as the safety issue is concerned, there are criteria that help determine what roads are appropriate for operation of the golf carts.
And do you by any chance have any general knowledge of Stony Creek to understand that it's a quiet and appropriate place to have this kind of?
It's my understanding, yes, and I may have to recuse myself because I just recently bought property in Stony Creek. So I could let Emmett Heltzel come up and speak.
We value your testimony and understand.
But nevertheless, it's a very quiet town.
Thank you, and the patron can speak to that as well.
It is my hometown. I grew up there. That's where I had my store for 18 years, and I've worked at that store for 50 years, so I'm quite familiar with it. I failed to mention that I spoke with the county sheriff. He's in favor of it, too. He doesn't have any problems or issue with it. Their ordinance does have a limit that they have to, the speed limit. They can only go on roads of certain speed, too, as well.
And what is that speed limit?
I think they got it listed as 35.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Sound right, Emma?
I have not seen the ordinance, but I'm sure he's got it right.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking about the ordinance, not the bill, yeah. Any favor or against in the room? Any questions? Thank you.
Move to report.
We have a motion, that will second.
Motion's been to report, properly seconded. We'll go ahead and vote on the bill. You're not going to alter the mufflers on those.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that for a while.
Delegate Anderson.
Thank you, sir.
Delegate Anderson. Yeah, bill passes 7-0.
Thank you.
And anybody keeping track of the roster? We through that?
We're done.
We through it?
Yeah.
No further business before us. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.